Pakistan tend to be overdetermined or overwhelmed by the issues of terrorism and extremism. Professor Aijaz Ahmad, well-known analyst on international affairs and a frequent guest on NewsClick, recently spent some time in Pakistan, and we thought this offers a good opportunity to look at other aspects of life in Pakistan. Aijaz, what do you think Indians and others are missing out in the news and information that we usually get about Pakistan?
As you were saying, Indian and other media always focus on issues of jihadism and terrorism, and that to a certain extent makes sense because that's what India and United States are most concerned about. What gets lost there is an immense turmoil that is going on in that country, and also issues which indirectly may be connected with this rise of extremism in large parts of Pakistan. When I was in Pakistan, the day after I arrived there was the day when the American consulate in Peshawar sustained a blast. What I found very striking was that in the entire sort of middle-class milieu, university milieu where I was moving on that day and the day after, no one was talking about it. I had to bring it up. What they were talking about was the 18th Amendment, which was about to be passed by the National Assembly. When you are in Pakistan, you find that the preoccupations are entirely of a different kind. There was a great deal of conversation about water issues, sometimes in relation to India, but very little. But mostly that the Punjab agriculture is devastated now in Pakistan because of lack of water, lack of power, tube wells aren't functioning, this, that, and the other. You have that. You have an impression that in the larger cities, biggest cities like Lahore and Karachi, there is now a much more vibrant middle class than there used to be in Pakistan in the past as I knew it. And yet you also have a sense that these are national enclaves. And the real badlands of jihadism
are somewhere else.
Pakistan now in the Food Security Index has now been given the lowest, the most alarming rating.
That's right.
People are talking widely of the possibility of famine. What the causes of that are, what the regions are that will be affected. And the regions are in, for example, southern Punjab, which is also the hotbed of Punjabi extremism. So this whole complexity of what is going on in that society, very contradictory trends.
Let's turn to what you referred to, which is the 18th Amendment. Do you see liberal civil society getting strengthened, or can the 18th Amendment also to some extent help strengthen fundamentalist forces because of the greater leeway given to the expression of popular sentiment?
At the heart of it is the shift of power from the presidential to parliament. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean people? Well, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the President of Pakistan, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan come from three of the most eminent feudal families of Pakistan. Democratization in Pakistan, in terms of political democratization, does not necessarily lead to greater social democratization because of this stranglehold of feudal power on civil institutions in Pakistan. So when the power shifts like that, it becomes a very different renegotiation of the compact between military power and civil feudal power. There is that. But of course there is a greater leeway for democratic forces to play. The other thing very important that has happened in Pakistan, which I think is the important factor, the most important constitutional reform about which we in India should think, is the rearrangement of relations between centre and federating units and the provinces, and among the provinces. The concurrent list has been abolished. There is now a mandate that the Council for Common Interests, as it is called, which is comprised of representatives of the four provinces has to meet every 90 days and reconcile differences. That combined with the new dispensation given by the Finance Commission, which gives a much better deal to Balochistan and what is now called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, that is to say Northwest Frontier Province, a much better deal for them. There is now developing in Pakistan, again, there might be a constitutional amendment on it, renegotiation of relations, mechanisms for renegotiation of mechanisms for distribution of power.
That's right.
Redistribution of water between NWFP, which is the heart of the sort of hydroelectric production in Pakistan, Sindh, which receives at the tail end of the rivers and so on. So these kinds of things, redistribution of power among the federating units, it's not altogether, wonderful, because what is beginning to happen and is likely to happen is that there will be very powerful movements for further division of the existing provinces.
And greater autonomy for the provinces as they stand today.
Yes, but also, carving out, there are very violent demonstrations, etc., going on in which lots of people have been killed by the security forces in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where Hinko and Hazaras want a separate state of their own because they feel oppressed by the Pashtuns. And there is a very big movement, has been incipient, very big movement in Pakistan for the creation of the Saraiki province, carved out of 3 of the provinces. The moment you start talking about nationality questions,
then open up a Pandora's box.
And this is already beginning to happen. Already in Karachi, the MQM is talking about. These are not going to succeed tomorrow, but what form they will take over the next coming years, we don't know.
Okay. Let me turn to another aspect, which is we all know that Pakistan is benefiting substantially from massive US aid, both civilian and military, but it's also struggling to cope with belt-tightening measures imposed by the IMF, by the United States, by other international lenders, and this is having all kinds of effects in society at large. So how did you see this affecting the lives of the ordinary Pakistani?
From 2001 until now, the Pakistan armed forces have received $9 to $10 billion.
That's right.
The effect of that for the armed forces, which essentially means the officers' corps and so on their wealth and prosperity is very, very evident. Since the Kerry-Lugar Amendment, Pakistan is supposed to get $7.5 billion over the next 5 years. I see no impact of it in Pakistan so far. They might start by spending more money in places like Waziristan and so on. How that money is going to be spent is very unclear. I am sure 60–70% of it will go to the pockets of those who administer it.
Reads frequently about the rise in food prices in Pakistan, rise of power tariffs which have been liberalized and deregulated, and several other such developments taken mostly at the behest of the IMF or international lenders, which are tending to push up prices in an already fairly impoverished economy, except for some sections, as you say. Did you see much effect of that in Pakistan?
Well, I had several discussions on the question of price rise, having gone from Delhi and having seen the price rise in Delhi over the last year or so. It did not strike me that the prices are rising in Lahore any faster than they're rising.
How do you see the trajectory in Pakistan unfolding over the next 5–10 years?
Well, my sense is that the new battles that are coming, both in Pakistan and Afghanistan, in Kandahar and Waziristan, will determine a great deal as to what happens to the jihadi extremist stuff in Pakistan. I think it's a phenomenon that has come to stay in Pakistan, and it will not be go away soon. My sense is that the military will not directly intervene in Pakistani politics in the near future, so there is going to be a greater play for these other. I think of Pakistan, in short, as a very, very conflicted society in which very contrary trends are colliding, very modernizing middle classes in the cities versus all of this jihadism all around them. It's a highly conflictual society. It's not peaceful, quiescent, semi-sleeping society like India.
Thank you, Aijaz.